Greetings. Sorry for the text-to-speech. Step 1 of installation is to unzip the downloaded archive. Then if you want to use the Lightroom plugin, start Lightroom and go to File, then Plugin Manager. Click Add at the bottom left and navigate to the extracted folder. This tool changes the exposure on all the images in the same folder as your selected baseline image. So if you do not organize your images into folders on your storage drive, please do so first. Now you can see some options in the panel. The first thing is whether you want to add a color label to images that had an exposure change, plus or minus, that is greater than that input box value there. Second thing is whether you want Lightroom to apply the edits of your baseline image to all the other images in the same folder on your hard drive. The exposure values will always propagate, so this is strictly about all the other edits you make to your baseline image. There is also a debug option, which would save a log that you can then send to me to diagnose problems you might have using this plugin. So, to use this plugin is very simple. You navigate to the image you want to set as your baseline exposure, then enter the Develop module with the D key. I am going to set my color input profile, and then use the eyedropper to check the lab value of this grey card I photographed using cross-polarized lighting. I will apply a few edits, and then, once I am happy with that, I will go to File, then Plugin Extras, and click on Set Baseline Exposure for 11mm extension tube. There are two options in the plugin extras, one for normal Sony or Nikon lenses, and one for an 11mm extension tube, but only if used on a Nikon lens. After a moment's wait, you'll see a dialog saying it is done. And if we hit the G key to open the library module, after a brief moment, the edits will update. You can see that the exposure has been equalized, and edits I made to the baseline image were propagated to all the other images. That's all, it's done. You don't have to do anything else. Here's how it looked before, and now, after. Now let's quickly check the exposure values to see this working. Keep an eye on the L value under the histogram in the top right. The values will dance around a little bit, plus or minus 1 to 2 lab, as it is just an estimation of distance. Also, the AR400 I used to photograph this grey card has some power variance. Now I will quickly show you the other plugin options in action. I will set a blue label on all images that get an exposure change of greater or less than 1.0, and I will not propagate the edits from my baseline image to the other images. I am just resetting it back. Ta-da! You might have noticed that I selected the first image in this image set for my baseline exposure. I don't have to do that though. I can pick any of these grey card images, adjust it to lab 50, and then use that as the baseline exposure. The end result will be the same. Ideally though, you want to calibrate your flash settings and camera settings to capture your grey card at the closest distance you intend to photograph and have it read close to lab 50. This is so that you do not inadvertently exceed the dynamic range of your camera if moving the flash closer to the object. Now I will show you how to use the included GUI script to do this same exposure equalization process in Rawtherapee, Darktable, and Lightroom. The GUI can be found in your plugin folder, inside the scripts folder, and you can start it by clicking on GUI.bat. We'll go through using this and the quirks of each program. In Rawtherapee, you'll make edits to your baseline exposure image. I am applying a neutral processing profile here, increasing the saturation and increasing the exposure 0.25 stops. For cross-polarized photography, you ideally want a value of LAB48 for your baseline exposure. You can see me checking that value on the left side of the screen. For normal lighting, you want LAB50. I'll go to the File Explorer view and just copy the folder path. Now when I open the Exposure GUI and select my baseline image, I can paste the folder path in quickly. I pick my image, and then the tool immediately starts processing. It only takes a second or two for hundreds of images. Then, just click the folder again in the File Explorer view, and it will update the metadata for the images. Rawtherapee needs a little nudge to know to update the metadata. I will do the same process again, this time choosing not to propagate the edits of the baseline exposure to the other images. I am increasing this contrast slider to make it very obvious. As you can see, the contrast was not applied to the rest of the images. Moving on to Darktable. Darktable is a little more quirky, so you need to go into the settings, then the storage panel, and enable Look for updated XMP files on startup. You probably also want to change XMP sidecar files to After Edit. I'll turn off some of these default modules inside Darktable, then set the white balance to a small region on this grey card. Darktable has a nice picker tool to check values. You can set them and they stay in that location. Darktable also has an exposure tool that lets you set exposure for middle grey, using a region. This entire card is middle grey, LAB 50, half of LAB 100, so the middle point. Logical, right? Sometimes Darktable fails to automatically write the XMP sidecar. If so, you can go to the Lighttable view by hitting L. Then, with your baseline image selected, click the Write Sidecar File button. After running my tool, your images have XMP files written for them, but Darktable only gives you the option to import them one at a time. That's no good. But if we restart Darktable, it will detect the change between the catalog edits and the XMP files, and allow you to import those edits all at once. So, let's restart the program to take advantage of that setting we changed earlier. Click Select All, then click Keep the XMP edit. If this says you don't have permission to write to the database, that's a Darktable bug. Check my Gumroad page for how you might fix that. Ta-da! All done. Since Darktable has this color picker tool that stays in position, we can navigate to the last image in this image set and place some probes across the grey card. As I flip through them, you can see the values are fairly consistent now. There's one reading Lab 52, that's 2% higher than we would ideally want, but it's acceptable and you won't notice it. The distance estimation approach struggles with near values, so it's worse for extension tubes. The final GUI example is with Lightroom. I don't know why you would want to do this, but I've added it anyway. Maybe in the future, Adobe updates Lightroom and breaks this plugin, and in the meantime I got hit by a bus. But fear not, you can use the GUI still. You would edit your baseline image, then go to Metadata, save metadata to Files. After that, select the image using the Exposure GUI. Once the GUI completes, go to the Library module by hitting G key, then select All. Go back to the Metadata menu and click Read Metadata from Files. Now you're all done. Lastly, I will show you the basic CLI usage of the GUI script. You open Command Prompt, type Python, then copy the script's full path. You can use the argument --Rawtherapee, or Darktable, or Lightroom. You can also add --Propagate to apply the edits to all images. Then add the baseline image's full path. Keep in mind when planning your CLI workflow that you need a sidecar file to already exist before you can use this tool. That's all, folks. Thanks for following along with me. And I hope it was all clearly enough explained. If you have any questions, please contact me through Gumroad.